Good evening, everyone. My name is Shawnita Jordan, and I am the Assistant Vice President of Corporate Services at Sagicor Life Inc. On behalf of Sagicor, thank you for joining us. This session is about one simple but powerful concept, the measurable return that comes from investing in yourself. There is a powerful shift happening across the Caribbean. Women are not just participating in the economy, they are leading, building, scaling, and creating generational impact. Yet many of us are still trying to balance it all: work, family, caregiving, and are often placing ourselves last in the financial equation. Tonight, we change that narrative. This webinar is designed for Caribbean women who are building careers, businesses, wealth, and legacies, and who are ready to approach financial wellness intentionally. This evening's format includes moderated discussion, interactive live polls, and a 15-minute Q&A segment via the chat. We want our discussions to be robust, real, and practical. We want to focus less on theory, but more on the tools you can apply immediately. We are joined by three dynamic women this evening. Hailing from Trinidad and Tobago is Renee Ottley, Senior Manager, Wealth Management and Operations, Sagicor Investments Trinidad and Tobago Limited. Renee is a financial services executive with over 2 decades of experience across wealth management, treasury, and investment strategy. She currently leads wealth management and operations at Sagicor Investments Trinidad and Tobago. From Jamaica is Anna Palomino, Fintech founder and author. Anna is a financial strategist, Fintech founder, and personal finance educator known for her systems-based approach to money. Since starting her career at Sagicor Life Jamaica in 2017, Anna has moved on to help more than 1,500 clients build structured financial systems for long-term stability. She is the founder of the Money Society, author of the Big Bad Book of Everything, and creator of the fintech platform Quota. Welcome, Anna. And rounding off the team from Barbados is Melissa Bell, Manager Financial Planning and Analysis of Sagicor Bank. Melissa has over 15 years of experience in corporate finance, banking, and financial strategy. She is known for turning complex financial data into clear insights that support strong decision-making and sustainable growth. And she is passionate about advancing financial literacy and helping individuals. Thank you all for being here. Let's first understand what ROI means. Traditionally, ROI translates to return on investment. What is the measurable gain you get back when compared to what you would have put in? So now I'm going to ask each of our panelists to share their perspective of what the ROI of Her means to them. Renee, can you get us started?
Sure. When I think about the ROI of Her, I think about the multiplier effect that happens when women are empowered financially. In my work in wealth management, I see this very clearly. When women become more confident about earning, investing, and managing their finances, the impact really stops with us. We tend to invest in our families, in our children's education, and our communities, which creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond one individual. The return on investing in women is therefore not just a financial one, it's generational. When women build wealth, we strengthen households, we expand opportunities for the next generation, and we contribute to stronger communities and more resilient economies. So for me, the ROI of Her is really about empowerment translating into lasting impact, not only for the woman herself, but for everyone connected to her.
I love that, Renee. Empowerment translating into lasting impact. Beautiful. Anna, what's your perspective?
I like to look at it from a holistic perspective. So I'm looking at the measurable return generated when a woman is fully resourced. So I'm looking at the financial aspect, the professional aspect, the systematic aspect. We're looking at a wholesome perspective of we're going to invest in ourselves in every area possible. And just by doing that, we will see just how much better our lives will become because we're pouring out into others eventually, and it will just help help with the development of our societal standards and just which in turn comes back to us. So essentially for the ROI of her, it's basically us just looking at getting ourselves fully resourced in all aspects possible. And then eventually what will happen is that we will see that this pouring out of us will come back to us from a societal perspective.
So a fully resourced woman is a woman that impacts her society.
That's
Love that.
exactly it.
Love it. Love it. Melissa, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts? What does ROI of her mean to you?
Well, I actually agree with both of the co-panelists' views on that. When I hear the phrase ROI of her, I think about the return that comes from investing in women, as Anna said, in a holistic way, not just financially in terms of opportunity, education, and empowerment. In finance, obviously, when we talk about the return on investment, we're thinking about the value that's generated from something over time. And in this context, the investment is in women, and the return was far beyond the individual. In the Caribbean, many women are the financial backbone of households. So when women are financially confident and secure, they tend to reinvest in the people around them. So for me, the ROI of her is about recognizing that investing in women, in their knowledge, their independence, and their participation creates returns that extend beyond them and covers families, communities, and generations. Because as Renee said, when you invest in a woman, the return rarely stops with the individual. It goes across communities and generations and families.
Beautiful sentiment, Melissa. Thank you, ladies, for your perspective. Now, to our audience, we're launching a quick poll, so please take a moment to share your response. The question is, when was the last time you made a financial decision focused purely on yourself? And the options are within the last month, within the last year, more than a year ago, and I honestly can't remember. You're going to have just 30 seconds to answer. I see so many of you answering. This is some really good feedback. At the beginning, within the last month was leading, but we are seeing so many of you saying that it is a year or more, or some saying you honestly can't remember the last time you made a financial decision focused purely on yourself. So if you have responded that you haven't invested in yourself recently, tonight is your reminder. The ROI of her compounds when you stop postponing yourself. So we're going to begin with our first panelist. Renee, tell us, what do you believe is driving this shift where women are no longer waiting to inherit wealth, but are instead building it?
So what I've seen over the years is a fundamental shift in how women view financial independence. For generations, women were often positioned as just beneficiaries of wealth, so either inheritance or marriage. Today, that dynamic has shifted significantly. We are more educated, more represented in leadership, building businesses, participating actively in financial markets. And at the same time, there is growing recognition that financial independence provides security, choice, long-term stability. So we're no longer waiting for wealth to find us, we're actively building it. And more women are taking ownership of their financial futures and recognizing that wealth building is not something that happens later in life. It's something that we have to do intentionally and pursue throughout our careers. And so this shift is really about agency. Women are moving from being just passive recipients of wealth to becoming intentional builders of it.
Thank you, Renee. So we're obviously seeing the shift in the behavior, but to help our audience understand a little bit more of what is driving that, I would say that it's clear that inheritance may supplement security, but it's obviously not a strategy. So could you explain to us why is relying on future inheritance risky?
So one of the things I often emphasize when speaking with clients is that inheritance is simply not something you can plan your whole life around. There are too many variables that are completely outside of your control. So longevity, health costs, family decisions, estate structures, timing, all of these can impact whether the wealth is transferred at all or how much of it remains. And that's why the principle of inheritance may supplement your future, but it should never replace a financial strategy is so important. Another reality I've observed, in the industry is that even when wealth is inherited, without financial knowledge and discipline, it can diminish quickly. And this is why many families see wealth dissipate within 1 or 2 generations. Because true financial security comes from actively building and managing your own wealth over time. So inheritance can certainly be a helpful tool, but it should not be viewed as a foundation to your financial security, but just part of it.
I love that. And in my years in private practice prior to joining Sagicor, I saw that borne out in many an estate that we were helping persons plan. I mean, across the Caribbean, we often see a situation where persons will refuse to leave inheritance for family members. So you definitely can't depend on financial benefit coming solely from inheritance. But I also love what you said about even if you get the financial benefit through inheritance, you must have that education to be able to manage that wealth appropriately. And that's going to come to be even more important, a thread that we're going to pull a little further in our discussions this evening. But for someone new to investing, what Sagicor Investments products do we offer that can give you an accessible entry point into wealth building?
In my experience, the best starting point for investing depends really on the individual's goals, their risk tolerance, and the amount they're looking to invest. For some who are starting with smaller amounts, I love mutual funds. They're an excellent entry point. They provide access to professionally managed and diversified portfolios, which helps simplify the investment process while still allowing everybody access to participate in the market. However, there are sometimes first-time investors who have larger sums, and in these cases, I would typically recommend they look for other options. For example, investors who are seeking lower risk and predictable income, things like repurchase agreements and bonds can be really attractive choices. They improve the return that you would typically get for money sitting in savings accounts. For those who are comfortable with some market volatility and looking for longer term growth, equities provide really great opportunities to participate directly in a company's performance. For investors who hold US dollar portfolios, exchange traded funds or ETFs, as they are typically referred to, can provide efficient access to diversified exposure across global markets. But beyond the products themselves, there's another really important factor I find for investors, especially female investors, and it's confidence. Many women delay investing, not because they lack the resources, but because they believe they need perfect knowledge before they can get started. And in reality, confidence in investing is built through participation, not perfection. So confidence often grows after you begin, not before. And that's why I always emphasize this principle. The most powerful financial decision is not the size of your first investment, but the decision to start.
I love that, Renee. So it isn't only about the diversity of the products that are available, because that's important. Because I was pulling through your discussion that there are so many different entry points and so many different products to suit your risk profile and your level of wealth and your goals and your tolerance. But it's also about taking that first step into the financial world. And I'm sure that it will give women in particular opportunities to take a small step and build their familiarity with the financial system. So thank you, Renee. And you've highlighted a critical and important shift, that wealth is no longer something that women simply wait to receive, but something they can intentionally build and grow. And it reminds us that financial empowerment begins with strategy and action. Now, this leads to a very important aspect of today's discussion. We're launching another live poll right now. Again, 30 seconds to answer. Your feedback gives us real insight into what women are navigating today. So the questions are: have you ever delayed a personal goal because you prioritize family needs? And the options are yes, multiple times, yes, once or twice, and not really. So let's see what. Oh, we've got a lot of self-sacrificing women in this audience this evening. And your responses are telling a story. That story brings us back to tonight's core message. The ROI of her begins the moment you decide that you are worthy of being on your own financial agenda. Thank you so much for your responses. Now, I'm going to shift gears here a bit to our second panelist, Anna Palomino. Anna, tell us, how can a woman's career or business become a true wealth building vehicle and not just an income source?
Right, I can take that question. The conversation, I believe, has to shift from how much am I earning to what am I building? Because a lot of us are extremely busy building, and we have very little to show for it financially, not because we're not working hard, but because we're building something and someone else's asset and not really our own. So when we look back at it, it's as if we've put in all these hours, we've put in all this effort, and we have nothing to show for it. So again, the point of this is we have to shift our thinking from how much am I earning to what am I building. The real shift, I believe, is thinking about ownership. If you're in a career, the question becomes, how am I converting this income into assets, investments, equity, property, something that's growing beyond your paycheck. If you're starting a business, for example, the goal shouldn't just be that you're creating a job for yourself. As a matter of fact, that should probably be the last thing on your mind. It should be to build something that has value beyond your daily effort, a brand, a product, intellectual property, systems that can scale. Because at the end of the day, income pays the bills, right? But assets are what we actually have to build wealth. And I just, it's my wish that more of us knew this and accepted this and can take this, even if you don't know it and it's the first time you're hearing it tonight. It's my goal and my hope that you take this and literally sleep on it so that you can understand, hey, I need to shift my thinking from, again, how much am I earning to what am I building?
Thank you, Anna. So my summary of that is that you're really pushing and encouraging women to be more entrepreneurial in their approach to investment, because even if you're earning a salary and you're not technically running a business, when it comes to your finances and planning for a long-term future, you have to be more entrepreneurial in your approach to investing. I love that. So I want to pivot a little bit more, because you speak so much about the wealth or the expanse of experience and different ways we can approach investment. Tell me a little bit about how mentorship and networking have impacted your financial and professional growth.
I can dive right into that. Essentially, here's the thing. The right room shortens your timeline more than almost anything else. Just being in the right room shortens a 20-year timeline or condenses a 20-year timeline to 5 years, 2 years, even 1 year. I think there's something very powerful that happens when you're surrounded by women who are already doing what you want to do. You stop seeing it as something that's distant and unrealistic, because it now becomes your norm. You're seeing it every day because you are in these rooms, and you get in these rooms via mentorship and through networking, right? So mentorship, let me expound a little bit on the mentorship aspect of it. Mentorship gives you access to experience things that you haven't had to learn yet, right? So we have two choices in this world. We can choose to ignore the things that we're seeing and the things we're taught and the learned experience of it, and we can just go do it the hard way, or we can watch others who've experienced it. We can talk to others who've experienced it, and we can try to avoid the mistakes in that manner. So as it relates to mentorship, it's important to seek it out so that you can condense your timeline, or make your timeline as short as possible and as easy as possible, right? A strong network, I believe, also exposes you to opportunities, partnerships, ideas. Oh my goodness, ideas that you wouldn't encounter on your own. I always speak about this on my social media, is that I travel and I talk to people, and let me just be clear about this. It's almost always nerve-wracking for me to just walk up to somebody, introduce myself, and just start asking questions. But the thing about it is that you don't know what you don't know until you talk to people who know more about what you want to know more about. So that's where networking comes in, and mentorship. But essentially, to wrap it up, in so many ways, it's not just about working harder. It's about working smarter. It's about proximity. And the faster we start accepting this, the easier and quicker it is for us to achieve our goals.
Thank you, Anna. So I just want to revisit something with you a little bit, because mentorship is so critical and we can see the way that it shapes your career. For me personally, I found, as you said, that as I worked with women who have gone before me in the profession, I feel in some instances that I'm standing on their shoulders, because the guidance that they have given me and the exposure. I know I have had one very meaningful mentor, unofficial, and she has been a person that has given me a lot of exposure in my career and transferred knowledge. And I would like to say, to pull on your thread, I'm encouraging women to do more of that for each other as peers, and to do that for the generations behind you, because I am proof that those things definitely do benefit us. And I see Renee and Melissa nodding their heads, so they're definitely echoing that sentiment. And Anna, you said it was painful for you to sometimes go up and talk to strangers, and I know that for a lot of women and a lot of introverts as well, that is their nightmare. But I often, and I'm very extroverted myself, so I will go up and talk to anyone. But I find that joining service organizations, professional associations, getting involved in your community is another great way to network and be of service. So it isn't just that you have to be Anna and walk up to a stranger in the airport or go to dinner and see someone, but there are practical ways in which you can network and build your network around you. So Anna, we want to pivot again, because wealth without protection is said to be fragile. And I know you've had a history working with Sagicor Life Jamaica, so this should really resonate with you. So what does that mean in real terms? Wealth without protection is fragile.
I love the fact that you asked what this means in real terms, because in real terms, in reality, it means that you can spend 20 years building something beautiful and lose it in just 1 year. You know, one illness, one lawsuit, one death in the family with no will in place. And that was my reality. My father passed when I was 16 years old. He spent his entire life working and built, I mean, obviously not his entire life, but he spent a large portion of his life working hard. I mean, I would like to say that's where I get my work ethic from, is that man would always go hard. And he just passed away just suddenly. And that's when it all came crumbling down. So when I tell you that when we're building wealth, we need to start thinking of protecting it because it's fragile. It's a real thing, especially because I worked at Sagicor as well. I saw it. It was repeated over and over and over again. It's very unfortunate, actually. But here's the thing about it. Real wealth, I want to say, is not just about building money. I mean, obviously, a part of it is, but it's not just about building money. It's about protecting it. For example, when I was at Sagicor, and even now, I tell my clients, hey, listen, critical illness insurance, for example, stop thinking of it as, oh, it's just, I'm going to call down sickness on myself and all this. I tell my clients, critical illness insurance is you protecting your financial portfolio from illness. That's what it is. Because when you get sick, for example, you have to think about it realistically. You don't just get up and you're diagnosed with the biggest condition out there or the worst condition out there. It happens in stages, right? First, you deplete your emergency fund. Then you have to go sell your stocks. Then you cancel the unit trust. Then you start, you probably dip into the partner money. You probably have to sell your house. It happens in stages. And if you just had that protection in place via a policy, for example, then you wouldn't have had to go through all that. You just go cash in on your policy, you go kick the conditions, and then you come back to your portfolio still standing. So real wealth is not just about building at all. It's about protecting it. And you have to think about things like insurance and things like ensuring that you have the right types of assets in your portfolios, aside from getting sick and dying and all this, because let's walk away from that now. Generally, just you want to ensure that your assets are protected and you're invested in the right thing. I think just to sum it up, I just want to drive home the point that when you're building wealth, we need to look at it in two parts. It's building and it's protecting because it is fragile. One unexpected event can wipe out actual years of hard work, and it's very painful to have to start over.
Yes, and working here at Sagicor as well, I must say that even though, as you said, some of the events that you talk about are unpredictable and they are sad, there is a lot of satisfaction that we derive when we can see the person's family benefit from protections that they have put in place. So I love how you frame that for us. So we're hearing clearly that financial growth overall for your discussion today, it's not only about the wealth generation, but it is the wealth protection. Melissa, do you want to chime in with a comment here? Oh, I thought I saw a hand. Okay, so we're going to move into our next segment. We're going to launch a poll to give us a glimpse into your reality. Go ahead and post your responses. So the questions are, what stops you from prioritizing financial planning? A lack of time, a lack of knowledge, fear of making the wrong decision, competing financial responsibilities, and it hasn't felt urgent. Wow, we are seeing, Renee, some of your comments coming through, fear of making the wrong decision. It's that lack of knowledge about the system, and we're going to remind our audience members that we're exhorting them to take that first initial step and build that emotional knowledge. And financial knowledge, fear of making the wrong decision and financial responsibilities. Those are significant impediments. So, women, not a lack of time, actually. So you're taking time, but the other factors are driving you from prioritizing financial planning. And what we're seeing here reinforces something important. The return of investing in yourself doesn't happen by accident. It requires intentionality. So to our final panelists, Melissa Bell, from your experience working with financial strategy and planning, what are some of the most common financial habits or patterns you see that either help or hinder long-term financial stability?
From my experience working in financial strategy and planning, one of the biggest differences I see between financial stability and financial stress is intentionality. The people who tend to build long-term financial stability usually have a plan for their money. They may not always have a perfect system, but they have a general understanding of their income expenses and what it is that they want to work toward in the short, medium, and long term financially. So, for example, people who consistently contribute to retirement plans, maintain insurance protection, as Anna said, and invest regularly, as Renee said, they are gradually building financial resilience over time. It may not feel significant month to month, but those steady contributions add up and create a financial cushion. On the other hand, one of the habits that can hinder stability is reactive spending. Many of us have experienced moments where we receive some extra income, a bonus, a tax refund, an early Christmas salary, and it is immediately absorbed into spending. So we upgrade our cell phone, buy some new appliances, take a quick trip, or cover expenses that weren't planned for. Well, there's nothing wrong with enjoying your earnings. When there is no intentional allocation towards savings or investment, it becomes difficult to build long-term security. So what I've observed is that financial stability rarely comes from one big financial decision. It is the result of small, disciplined choices made consistently over time.
I love that, Melissa, even though it shocked me in the heart a little bit because I'm one of those persons who will definitely get a lump sum bonus and look to take a trip or buy something new and shiny. So we understand how, powerful that impulse is, believe me. So we saw in the poll that a lot of the responses, the majority of them actually, were saying that competing financial responsibilities is one of the drivers for women not prioritizing financial planning. So how can women balance today's financial demands while still planning intentionally for their long-term financial future?
So, balancing the financial demands of today with planning for the future is something that many women struggle with and find challenging, particularly because women often carry multiple responsibilities, careers, households, children, and sometimes providing support for extended family members. One approach that can help is shifting how we think about saving and investing. So rather than viewing it as something that we do if there's money left over after we've done everything we had to do at the end of the month, it can be helpful to treat it as a fixed commitment, just like paying rent, mortgage, or utilities. So for example, setting aside a portion of income automatically into savings or retirement planning, even investment products, can help ensure that long-term goals are being addressed even while managing your current everyday expenses. Another important piece is recognizing that financial planning is not static. As women move through different stages of life, career, children, supporting parents, preparing for retirement, and the statistics say that women live longer, so we have to prepare for a longer retirement, our financial priorities will naturally evolve. So periodically reviewing your financial plans and adjusting them helps ensure that we remain aligned with our goals. The most important step is simply to start. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to start with a big sum of money. What matters is developing the habit of planning intentionally for the future and contributing towards that.
Okay, it begins with the small step. I love that.
Yes.
And this is the tip that I'm taking away. Treat it like a bill, like everything
Yes.
else. Treat it as part of your budget that you have to set aside every month. I love that. So looking back at that poll that we just did, again, the next two biggest areas or drivers for women not prioritizing financial planning are lack of knowledge, something which Renee raised in her presentation, and fear of making the wrong decision, which I think goes well with that lack of knowledge. So there's a lack of familiarity, which is stopping women from prioritizing their financial planning. So from your perspective, what are some of the ways women can begin building confidence in managing and understanding their finances?
As you said, Shanita, familiarity comes from confidence. So once you have the confidence, you will continue to work on it and the familiarity will come. The more we engage with our finances, the less intimidating they seem. That engagement can start with simple actions, reviewing your bank accounts periodically, understanding your loan obligations, asking questions about savings and investment products. Is also important for women to actively participate in financial decisions within their households. Whether it is budgeting, discussing major purchases, or planning long-term goals, being part of those conversations builds knowledge and confidence. In the Caribbean, we also have traditions like meeting turns. Many women participate in these savings groups to accumulate money for school expenses, travel, home improvements. And while these are often used for short-term goals, they're also a gateway to broader conversations about financial awareness and saving and planning with more long-term products like investment accounts and insurance protection. Over time, the more we engage with our finances, the more confident we will become in managing them. So the confidence will grow when we shift from avoiding our finances towards actively engaging with them.
Thank you, Melissa. I love that. And there's another thread that I want to pull that comes through Anna's statements and your statement, that the importance of a network, because financial research has shown that persons seek the opinion of their family and peers and friends when they're looking at financial products or considering what products to invest. So again, build that network of persons around you that you can discuss these things with. And I'd say also don't be afraid to ask for help and information, because you will be amazed how many sophisticated, educated, bright, wonderful women have no idea about the basic features of financial products. And that's not an indictment on them. That's just a feature of our society. There's lots that we focus on learning, and we don't place that same emphasis on learning about finances. So thank you, Melissa. And I really appreciate how you highlighted those patterns that we often overlook in our day-to-day financial decisions. It's a helpful reminder that small habits can shape long-term stability. So thank you. I will now be throwing out a question to our panelists, and I would like each of you to respond with one actionable step. If every woman listening this evening took one financial step in the next 30 days, what should it be? So I'm going to throw first to you, Anna.
Sorry about that. So my actionable step is gonna stem from my point of networking and mentorship. It's probably gonna scare the socks off of our webinar attendees today, but I would like for everyone to take the chance and just attend at least one networking event this month. Well, not even this month. Let's do full 30 days. So between March 12 and April 12, let's go to a networking event. Walk up to someone, introduce yourself, and try to make that connection. Because listen, the trade-off between that small action and the freaking out that's happening inside versus what can come of it, what can come of the relationship, you're gonna be mind blown. So my actionable step is this: go to the event. Probably shot back some water, you'll be all right. Go to an event, a networking event, somewhere you can meet somebody who can help you build out your goals. Walk up to them, introduce yourself, and let's get the relationship started.
Beautiful. I love that. Renee, what about you?
If there's one step I would like to encourage every woman to take, it would be to simply begin investing. I know many of us delay investing because we feel we need a large amount of money or we need a lot of financial knowledge before we get started. But in reality, wealth building is less about the amount you start with and more about time and consistency. Even small amounts allow compounding to begin working in your favor. So the most important step anyone can take in the next 30 days is to simply start. Because ultimately, the most powerful financial decision you make is not about the size of your first investment. It's the decision to start.
Thank you, Renee. Melissa?
I have to say that I agree with Anna. I'll try that one myself. As she said, it will knock my socks off, but we'll try. I'll let you know how it goes. I also agree with Renee. If everyone who's listening took one financial step over the next 30 days, I would encourage them to spend some time reviewing their financial picture and identifying one small habit they can adjust. So set aside just an hour or two to look over your income, your expenses, and your spending patterns. Often that exercise alone can reveal some opportunities to redirect money towards saving. So for example, lots of people buy lunch. If we buy lunch and it costs about 10 US per day, and you decide to bring lunch from home just twice a week, that's $20 saved each week. And over a month, that's roughly 80 US dollars. Instead of letting that money disappear into everyday spending, you could intentionally move it into savings. The amount may seem small, but the real power, as Renee said, is in building the habit of directing money towards your future. So the financial progress will begin with small shifts in our everyday habits.
I love that, Melissa. I love that, Melissa. Again, as the resident person in charge of financial planning and analysis, I feel like it's always shots fired because I'm here sitting down thinking, is Melissa trying to disrupt my coffee bean order?
Just twice a week.
Am I going to have to bring the lunch from home is what she's telling me, but I love that. The beginning with a small habit. Thank you so much, ladies. There's a lot to think about. So, audience members, you've just heard practical shifts or practical steps that can shift your financial trajectory in 30 days. The question now is, which one will you commit to? So thank you to our panelists for those valuable insights. Now is the section of the seminar where we'd love to hear from you, our audience. If you have a question for our panelists, please type it into the Q&A box. Feel free to submit your questions at any time, and we'll work through as many as we can during this segment. As your questions come in, I'll direct them to the panelists whose expertise best fits the topic. But panelists, also feel free to chime in, raise a hand and let me know that you want to chime in. And we'll be happy to round out the discussion with multiple viewpoints. So panelists, also, we're going to try to get as many answers in. So keep the answers concise. So let's see, as I go to the chat box, what we have. Oh, we have a lot of questions coming in. This is so encouraging. Thank you, ladies, for your participation. So this one, I love this one, and any panelist can take this one, but I'll see who I throw it out to. I'm 41, married with a 5-year-old daughter, aging parents, and limited funds. And I feel embarrassed that I haven't been more intentional on my financial planning and beginning my investment journey. Is it too late for me to start? If not, how? Renee, I'm going to throw that over to you.
So no, I don't think it's too late to start. I think it's never too late to start. So like Melissa would have said, if I think a financial plan needs to start now, look at what your expenses are and then see where there are opportunities for you to scale back. And sometimes that scaling back hurts a little bit, right? Because we have the premium package for cable, but how many of those channels do we actually watch? Or we're buying food every day or picking up a coffee every day. Just little things that we can scale back and that money go into a savings account. I think if you don't have savings, the first place to start is a savings account. Once you've taken a look at your at your whole financial picture, and then begin investing. And again, like I said, investing does not require you to have a lot of money. Many mutual funds will start at like $100 a month. So it's easy to get started. Put aside every month out of every paycheck, and then in your savings account, and then start putting aside a little bit out of every paycheck into a mutual fund. And you see it grow. And honestly, that behavior generates more saving because you get excited, you see the balances growing, you begin to feel so proud of yourself, and then you start looking for other opportunities to save and invest. It's never too late to get started. Just start doing it today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Renee. And I think that ties into another question where one of the participants from Trinidad wants to know how much they need to start investing in mutual funds. And you said you could start with $100. Right. It doesn't need
Yes.
to be exorbitant. So we have another question coming in. I think this is a great question and a very simple one, but a great question. Is it a bad idea to have a credit card? And I'm going to throw that to Melissa.
So it is not a bad idea to have a credit card. It is a bad idea to heavily rely on a credit card. So credit cards are useful tools. Sometimes you may need to purchase something ahead of when your pay cycle occurs. So you buy it with your credit card, and then when your pay cycle occurs, you pay it right back because that credit card is money that you are borrowing. That is not your money. So you pay that right back and you keep going. So credit card is not an extension of your income so that on a monthly basis you can spend your income plus whatever is on your credit card as available funds. It is there basically to assist with timing differences, to assist with overseas purchases, to assist personally for me, to assist with getting points because I'm all about making my money work for me. I'm gonna take those trips, but I need the points so that I can take the trip with the points. So they are useful, and they have various types of credit card products that give you different benefits. So they're cards that give you cash back. So you might not be a person who's interested in taking trips, but they're cards that give you cash back. When you spend money on the card, yes, you pay it back, but then you get the benefit of getting cash back. So it's pretty much free money you're getting from the credit card once you're using it properly. So it's not a bad idea to have a credit card, but it must be used responsibly. And you must never, ever, ever, ever pay just the minimum payment because then it's a bad idea to have a credit card if it operates that way. But overall, it's not bad. Just like with anything else, it takes discipline. And once you give some thought to what you're doing and how you're using it and how it fits into your plan overall, because it all needs to tie back to a plan. So once it fits into your plan, then it's not a bad thing to have.
Perfect. This is the first time I don't feel like shots fired at me. I'll take a trip to fund a trip. I have my credit card with points and I never pay the minimum payment. So thank you, Melissa. That's really good advice. I see Renee has a hand up.
So why I also like credit cards, same for Melissa. I like the points, but I think a great way to use credit cards as well is to pay bills that you have to pay, phone bills, those things. So you pay it, get the points, and then you're able to transfer the money from your paycheck, whatever, your savings accounts, whatever, straight onto the credit card right away. So you're not really getting hit with those fees and those interest payments because you pay it down right away. And you're really only using it for expenses that you already have to pay.
Perfect. So we're getting a lot of engagement. So I'm really trying to push through these questions. So I see one that has come in is, can someone discuss the importance of having a will and trust? I'll take that one as the resident lawyer. I'll take that one for myself. What I would say is that, succession laws vary across the Caribbean, but the most critical thing about having a will and trust is that you get to dictate how your estate will be managed and shared on your death. And if you want to have control over how that is done, you need to make a will. A will is also a useful mechanism for ensuring that if there is any specific person or any specific cause that you either want to take care of, or in the example of a cause, make provision for, Even if you're a dog lover and you want to give money to the RSPCA, you can stipulate all of that in a will. A will gives you control over how your estate will be managed on your passing. And as a lawyer, I'm going to recommend that everyone seek the advice of a lawyer on preparing their will and advice on whether trust will be a useful mechanism for them. But it is one of the most fundamental and basic parts of your estate planning package. And there are also investment products and life insurance products that tie in to your estate planning process, and that should also be managed and addressed in your will. So I would also recommend that you approach estate planning as a holistic exercise and looking at your entire portfolio, your debts as well as your assets, when deciding how you're going to leave your property via a will. So thank you for that question. That was a really good one. I'm having another question come in. What advice would you give to young women who want to start investing, and what are money-making tips to start that journey? And I'm going to throw that out to Anna.
So the first thing is, if you want to invest, you have to understand that, or if you're afraid of investing, you have to understand that you have no choice. That's the first thing. You have to start investing. There's a thing called inflation, which means that if you just have the money parked, inflation is just eating it out, and you cannot outwork inflation. I always tell my clients that, hey, if you think that inflation is taking your money, is reducing the value of your money by 10%, and you're just going to go, oh, let me go earn 10% more myself. Inflation attacks that too, that's coming in. So the only way you can combat this is by investing. I think when you start appreciating that fact, it becomes less scary for you, because now you know it's something that you have to do. So your next step is to start learning about the process. And guess what? It's not hard. It's not hard. I think because people think it's hard, you just never start. But it's not hard if you understand the basics, right? For example, I'll leave something with you. The market has to go up and it has to come back down. It has to go up, it has to come back down. So don't freak out when you see it going down and you're like, buy, sell, no, buy, sell. No, you don't need to do all that. Look up something called dollar cost averaging. As soon as you get off the webinar, research dollar cost averaging and start there with your strategy. But the bottom line is you need a strategy. So if you start understanding that you need to do it, you need to invest. Number two, it's not scary, it's not hard. And number three, you look into dollar cost averaging, which just means that instead of you chasing the market, you are going to find some stocks. Again, you don't need $500 billion trillion to invest, and you don't need 500 billion stocks to invest in. Find 5 companies that you know and trust and believe in, and you can research and trace their history. Just 5, maybe even just 3. You know what? Let's start with 2. Just start, right? You consistently invest in these stocks month after month, regardless of how much you have. It's going to average out, hence dollar cost averaging. So essentially what you're looking at are those 3 things to get started. What was the second part of the question, Shanita? I remember it was a 2-parter.
Why are you putting me on the spot? Who remembers? I'm trying to figure out my next question I want to ask you.
Well,
if you can't remember, we're just going to have to stick a pin. But what I would like to say in response to that as well is that even for persons who may not have that comfort with doing the research themselves, and you were speaking about the volatility in the market, I think coming in to speak to investments professional is a really good piece of advice, because when you tell an investments professional, well, I'm scared about this, or I would take a risk, or I'm not, that translates into a risk profile that translates into different products that they can offer you. So I want to say that. But the question I was focused on asking you is coming in from, I love this, a broke college student in their 20s who wants to start a business. So they want some tips. So, and I'm going to throw that back to you, tips on how to get started in business, since you're a resident entrepreneur.
I can take that question. That's such a beautiful question, because listen, I believe everybody, at least once in your life, we need to start a business, right? So here's the thing. If you're going to get started, And this is going to sound so contradictory, but I promise this is what worked for me. It's that instead of chasing the money, chase value. So focus on whatever service it is that you're going to be offering. Let's imagine it's a service. You focus on mastering that craft, because this is what I've learned across, the last decade that I've been in business. When you perfect that craft, when you've mastered that craft, you then get to set your price at whatever you want to set it at, because people respect that you know what you're doing, they need what you have, and they're willing to pay whatever it is that you're charging. But when you chase money, what's going to happen is that you're going to take shortcuts. You're not going to have time to invest in your craft. You're just focusing on money, 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 money. So what's going to happen is that you're probably not going to have people wanting to pay what you need them to pay. And you're going to find yourself chasing the money, chicken in a yard. The chicken in the yard, we call them stray fowl in the yard, they just run up and down, like, run, that's you, because you're chasing money. Focus on value instead. I am telling you, if there's one thing, I've said this 500 times tonight, if there's one thing that you take away tonight is focus on providing value. I'm telling you, as somebody who has done both, I've chased the money and all it did was burn me out. And I'm sitting on there wondering, why am I always so busy and broke? The two B's, busy and broke. But when I started focusing on providing value, money just comes in and you get to set your price. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing, I don't know if you're going to like this, but I've said it tonight. You need to network. You need to network. You need to network. You know why? You can start a business and pray that clients will find you, pray that customers will find you. Or you can go to an event and you can meet the business owner, a business owner who has maybe 500 staff members, 500 team members. You broke a contract with that entrepreneur, and right there through that contract, you have 500 clients because you've brokered it with the company. Or you could sit at home and you can do it the normal traditional way, which is to just pray clients find you one by one. If you just network, go out there, talk to people, I tell you, you're gonna truncate your process, your timeline. It's gonna be so succinct that you're gonna be wondering, why did I wait so long to get this started? And then the final tip I have, just quickly, is that you need to make sure that you're surrounded by professionals, because again, that's an easy way to lose money. Just find some professionals and seek their advice.
I love that. So the part that resonated with me really is focusing on mastering your craft, because I did have a senior when I first started to practice as a lawyer who would say to me, Shanita, get good at what you're doing and then work for passion and not money. I used to be like, what's this woman talking about? This is so much foolishness. I have no money. But I followed the advice and I spent a lot of time learning and understanding and becoming good at what I was doing and becoming known as a person that could be relied on. And then I started to work on things that I was passionate about, and then the money follows. But who wants to believe that when you're 20 and broke? But it really is excellent advice. So I have another question. I'm trying to get through so many of them because I'm loving all the engagement. So we just want to make sure that we get through as much of them. So panelists, I want you to keep your answers tight so that I can get through as many of these responses. So Melissa, I'm going to throw this one to you. For young professionals who are just beginning their financial journey, what are the most important steps to take now to build a strong financial future over the next 10 to 20 years?
So that is a great question. I love that question because youth is on your side. Time is on your side. One of the most important things that young professionals can do is start early. Even if the amounts feel small, time, as I said, is one of the most powerful advantages in investing because it allows your money a long time to grow through compounding. So a good first step is building strong financial habits. Understand your cash flow, manage debt, and consistently set aside an amount for investing or saving. Consistency at this point matters more than starting with a large amount. So focus on the basics.
Thank you, Melissa. So I have another question because it's not all struggling young professionals in here. This one I want to throw out. What if I have $900,000 for emergency? Do you think it's too much to have in savings because of inflation, or should I invest some? I see Renee's eyes open so widely just now, Renee. I'm going to throw that one out to you.
Oh, yes, definitely. $900,000 is a lot of money to have sitting in a savings account. As I think Anna would have mentioned about inflation, right? So I hear a lot of people saying it's safe, it's safe. I know my money is safe. But literally you can buy less with it every year. So if you're planning to pass that on to anyone, the buying power of it will be so limited. You might as well have spent it. So I
Okay.
would say, yeah, you might as well have spent it. They would get more out of whatever you would have spent it on. I like shoes. So I would say, $900,000 is a lot of money to have sitting in savings. I would definitely reach out to get a wealth management advisor, have someone help you create a plan based on what your risk tolerance is, and then, really get you into some higher earning opportunities that would protect you from inflation. And also what you want to make sure is that the portfolio that you're investing in is diversified. It's that not all your eggs in one basket. So you want to make sure that you have your monies diversified in multiple types of securities. When one goes up, the other one usually goes down. And so it helps you create some balance in terms of performance. And I think Anna also talked about it. Anything that goes up must come back down. And when it comes back down, please do not operate in the way that everybody does, which is that they buy high and sell low.
Okay, so don't panic.
Don't panic.
And understand that your investment portfolio can fluctuate. It's not the savings account where the interest goes on, point whatever,
By pennies.
little bit of percent that we get these days. But it's one that can fluctuate, and if it's balanced, you can write out those fluctuations. So Renee, I'm going to stay here a little bit because we've been getting a lot of questions. I'm trying to combo them. So a lot of persons are asking or expressing in some instances uncertainty about investments because of what's happening in the geopolitical climate. You can see how certain aspects of that environment are driving or impacting investments. Persons are saying, well, I may not feel comfortable talking with a particular person or any person about investing. So how can persons get more comfort around investing, and especially investing in the times that we find ourselves confronted with?
I think having a wealth advisor is important. Having somebody who understands the market and can share with you consistent and real-time information. For people who are very techy, I love Yahoo Finance. It's a great tracker. You can choose specific industries, you can choose specific equities that you like and sort of track their performance. But I'll tell you that when we look at the S&P 500, which is one of the main indices, you'll see that over any 10-year period, the S&P has performed even during periods like COVID, right? So where we saw the market tumble and the market shot right back up. So for people who exited when the market tumbled in COVID, they recognized the losses that people who stayed in did not see. In fact, what the people who stayed in saw, especially those who would have done what Anna said, which is sort of double down, you see the market drops and you invest more, they saw really significant returns on their money. So yes, the market right now is responding to some geopolitical events. But we'll see in a year, maybe even 6 months, the market will start to move in the right direction. So if you panic now, you will recognize those losses instead of just seeing them on paper. They will actually hit your account. So if it is that you are extremely nervous, stop logging in to your accounts. Therefore, you don't see the fall, so you cannot have the heart failure. And stop taking advice from your plumbers and your hairdressers. Go to people who understand the market, know the market, really and truly know what advice to give you. don't think that everybody who's ever heard about a stock understands the stock market. They don't get professional advice.
We're going to end that response right there because that's the perfect place to end it. And so I have this question that I think ran through the entire aspect. This concern ran through the entire aspect of this webinar this evening. I'm going to throw this to my new best friend, Melissa, who has been traumatizing me. So what is the best advice for someone willing to start investing, however, not sure if they can commit to consistency just as yet? Can I still start? Melissa, I think that you are offering so much good advice on this particular issue. So I'm throwing that to you.
Sure. I would say yes, still start. The consistency that I am speaking of and that you hear me referring to repeatedly is not necessarily to say that you're going to put $100 in each and every single month, but the consistency is really to have in your plans and in your mindset that your saving and your investing is a priority. So you put some money in January and in February and in March, but then in April, it's time for some usual seasonal expense and you just can't do it this month. And that's fine. But because you've created the habit in May, you're back putting it in. So it doesn't mean, it's not like if you fall off or if you don't get to do it or if something comes up, it's not like, oh dear, I've fallen off the wagon and I can't get up. You definitely get up and continue. So start where you are and keep going. And every single time that something happens, every time there's a setback is not a failure. A setback is an experience of what didn't work, and it allows you to look at that and see how you can go forward better and not have the same experiences. So start and keep going. And when you don't get to continue, pick it right back up and keep going again.
Thank you, Melissa. In the interest of time, we'll address one final question live, and any other questions will be followed up by our team after the session. But Melissa, I really want to pick up from where you left off because this person asked the question directly into what you were asking just now, because they say they start to save and they have to dip back into it again and get so frustrated because they never seem to make much traction. And their question is, how can they maintain discipline when it comes to their financial future?
So experiencing dips when you first start, it can definitely be frustrating. I've experienced that. And it's something that many new investors go through. But what is important is to remember that investing and saving is typically a long-term process. So as I said, just keep doing it. The thing is, and the way that I think you should look at it is you say that whenever you get a sum, you have to dip into it. But imagine if you weren't saving and you didn't have it to dip into, how would you have afforded that expense? So that's exactly what it's supposed to do. And over time, as you continue to save, it will continue to be able to give you a buffer so that the things that are currently frustrations, like they could have been real crises if you did not have that cushion to fall back on. So I would say that you're doing great and just keep going.
I love that reframing, Melissa. That's excellent, excellent advice. So thanks to everyone who would have asked all of these thought-provoking questions. And before we wrap up, I'd like to invite each of our panelists to leave us with a brief final thought or key takeaway, perhaps one piece of advice you'd like everyone here to remember as they continue their financial journey. Renee, can I start with you?
I started speaking and did not have my mic on. One piece of advice that I would leave with everyone is, a lot of the questions seem to be around, is it too late to start? How much do I have enough? Do I know enough? And I would say, like as Melissa said, start and just keep going. Don't let the setbacks become something permanent. Don't let them drain your energy so that you just like, you know what, every time something comes up and I have to dip in it, so I'm just not going to bother anymore. you having started and having put aside money, you started your brain focused and retrained to do this. Just keep going. It gets better, it gets easier. You start making better and better decisions. And some of those financial woes that seem to keep cropping up, they get less and less as you make better and better financial decisions. So don't beat up yourself. Don't make this process so hard, so difficult. Just start. Get in the market, start doing it step by step. When you have a setback, accept it and move on. Just keep growing.
You're muted, Shanita, but I'm assuming you said me.
Yes, I did. It caught me finally. Go right ahead.
Oh, no worries. I would say essentially, I would love for everyone on this webinar to start challenging traditional financial norms and what you think you're supposed to be doing, and just start to remove the ceiling from above your life and above your finances. Because a lot of the things that you want to achieve that you think are so far-fetched and so beyond your grasp and beyond your reach, they are really not. They're just seeds that have been planted in your head from you were a child, and now you are thinking it's so hard to invest, and it's so hard to start a business, and it's so hard to network, and it's so hard to do anything financially related. But it's really not. I want you to start with just challenging the traditional financial norms, right? Let's start there. And then the final part of that is just to tie into the investment part a little bit, because I'm so pro investing, it's not even funny. I want you to, when you get off this call, just think of 3 companies that you know of, that you've grown up hearing of. That growing up part is very important. A company that's been around for a long time, and you start to just pay attention to that company. Then you go in and you talk to your investment advisors, you talk to your financial advisors, and you say, hey, I'm interested in these companies. I'm looking to invest in these companies. What are your thoughts with respect to that? You see, when you start that, when you do just that, you're going to get hooked. You're going to get addicted. And then you're going to realize this is not so far out of my reach as I thought it was.
Thanks, Anna. It's clear investing gives you a real rush. So thanks for that. Melissa, what about you?
I would like to leave just the thought that financial planning is not about having all the answers or having a lot of money to start with. It's about making intentional decisions with what you have today. Small steps really do matter. Understanding your finances, setting goals, saving consistently, and asking questions when you are unsure. And especially for women, building confidence around money is incredibly powerful. The more we engage with our finances, the more control we will have over the opportunities and choices available to us in the future. So my encouragement is to start where you are, use what you have, and keep building from there. Do not wait until you feel ready or until you feel like you know everything about money. Just start where you are, take small steps, and let consistency do the work over time.
Thank you, Melissa. And that's a beautiful place for us to end. So this evening, we explored how women are often taught to sacrifice first and plan later. And we challenged that narrative tonight. Investing in yourself is not selfish, it is strategic. It strengthens your household, it stabilizes your future. It models confidence for the next generation. The ROI of Her begins with one decision: to stop postponing yourself. Now, to recognize your action, we will be selecting a few of you to benefit from a free consultation with a wealth advisor and to receive a special token. Put in the chat a step you will be taking to set yourself up for financial success in the near future. 5 lucky persons will be randomly selected, and you will be notified via email. Please put your answer in the chat box, or if the chat box is not there, let's use the Q&A session or the Q&A facility, because I saw so many of you in there. So if the chat is not available, oh, here's the chat. So many of you are there. Okay, beautiful. So we're going to select a few of you, 5 of you, to be given a free consultation with a wealth advisor and to receive a special token. So please also put the country that you are from as well. Thank you for being part of this movement. Let this be the moment you move forward from balancing to building. If today's discussion resonated with you, we invite you to continue the journey with us. Next week, we'll be hosting another webinar that takes a deeper dive into practical strategies for building and sustaining financial wealth. Be sure to register using this link. There should be a link popping up on screen to join that webinar. Thank you all for your participation this evening, and good night.